Hello, and welcome back to the Place Stamp Here show. This is episode 3. This will be the second part of our self-adhesive album fill series. In the last episode, we covered the self-adhesive stamps that were released by the United States Postal Service between 1974 and 1994. Today, we're going to be dealing with the self-adhesive stamps that were released in 1995 and have a small date of 1995 somewhere on the stamp. This video is going to be in 3 parts. The first part will be just some highlights of me sorting through a pile of stamps that have that printed 1995 on them. And then the second part will be learning how to remove as many of these issues as we can from paper by whatever means necessary. And then the last part will be taking those stamps that are off paper and selecting one copy of each stamp that we have to put into our album. So hopefully we have all the stamps that came out this year. If we don't, we do have a lot of stamps to go through once we're done with this series to try to find those. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, like, comment below, etc. And feel free to write me. My address will be in the comments below or at the end of this video. All right, thank you and enjoy. This is our first packet. This is all the stamps that say 1995 on them. We're going to be sorting these stamps today. There's a few different designs. One of the main things we're looking for today is a coil version of this Midnight Angel stamp and coil versions of this Christmas stamp, or this set of 4 Christmas stamps. It's the coil stamps. That's a booklet. Are only available from the Philatelic Fulfillment Center in Kansas City. On this channel, you're going to hear me griping a lot about craft scissors, the jagged cuts, and they cut into the stamp while they were trying to make this fancy postmark thing. Oh, these are booklet stamps because you can see that straight edge on the left and the bottom there. Some of these have straight edge on the top or the left or the right or the bottom, or there's also corner pieces like this. And I think there are some that have perforations on all 3 sides because I think the booklet was like 3 stamps wide. So the stamp in the middle is going to have all 4 of those fake perforations on the side, the die cut. And in theory, the one with all the die cuts on all 4 sides should be worth a lot more than the other ones because a lot of people like to have that stamp, like this one, with that missing corner, their album, because some people don't like straight edges. So. Like I was saying, every stamp put out since January 1st, 1995 has a date on it somewhere. There is one exception. It's the one you might have seen it in the last episode. It's the nonprofit G-rate stamp that was supposedly came out in December of '94, but it actually wasn't available to the public until like January 18th, 1995. So you can see here, I separated the flag of report stamp by the red dates here. You have some blue 95s. You got the pears, the peaches, the pink roses, the one cherub with his hand on his chin. The other cherub has got both his hands on the whatever it is. You have the 4 different Victorian Christmas card, Christmas stamps, and then you have the Midnight Angel Christmas stamp. Then you have the flag over the field ATM stamp. And at this point, I'm also going to be checking for place stamp here's and damage stamps. Let's see. Zoom in on. There we go. It has perforations on all 4 sides. This was in the middle of the booklet, and a lot of collectors would consider this one to be the best of the bunch because it doesn't have any straight edges. Not, but these are all tagged. Yeah, it's a glassine envelope. Glassine is supposed to kind of stop some UV light from getting in and moisture and other stuff. So as far as I can tell, these are all tagged. Some of these dates are really itty bitty. They're hard to read. Like this guy. I mean, this is under a microscope. You could barely make out that 1995. Get this camera turned off. See how small that date is on there? It's just a tiny little blip. Okay, this is embarrassing. This is a water-activated gum stamp. That's why I couldn't find a self-adhesive flag over porch dated 1995 with a red date. It's in a booklet format, because that is a water-activated gum stamp with perforations. This one's probably... no? This probably says 96. So, to zoom in on that one. Yeah, that says 96. Dang it. Alright, there's a lot of varieties of those. Anyway, so there should only be one red date, and that's the coil. I do like this one on the green stamp, but this is also a water-activated gum stamp. Okay. I better check all of these real quick. See, the problem with having these dates on here and having both types of stamps is I'd see the date and throw it in. That's also water activated. So is that one. So is that one. This one says 96. Yeah, this is 96. 96. Wow. See, we're learning. We aren't learning. Alright. Okay, so there are no red date 1995 flag over porch stamps, or self-adhesive anyway. They're all blue, and there is a booklet, a coil, and a small date version of the booklet. This is gonna be my baseline. This one definitely has something behind it. It says, put stamp here, post office will not deliver without proper postage. Now the small date's going to be like half the size. This one has a place stamp here behind it. Okay, here's a cool slogan cancel. This one says Classic Movie Monsters. Got that set somewhere. I'll go grab it real quick. You can see it. These ones aren't self-adhesive, but this is the set that Slogan Cancel's advertising. It's got Phantom of the Opera and the Mummy and Frankenstein and Dracula. I was going to Boulder City in Nevada, and they have a monster museum, and I was going to do some extreme philately. These used to be in a strip of 5, and I separated them, but then I didn't make it to the museum before it closed. Okay, and then this one, like I said, we're going to move that to the 1997 pile. These were supposed to be released the same date as the, it's got a place stamp here behind it, the lick and stick gum stamp. But the public wanted more self-adhesive stamps, so they released this one a month early. These two certainly seem like, I guess the date's about the same size. Here's a slogan cancel. It says the American Music Stamp Festival. It's a star on a stamp. It has a Seattle postmark. There's another stamp we don't have. Didn't see any coils of that one either. Kind of 0 for 6 on coils today. This was definitely damaged. You can see here how it just bit into the perforations right there where the die cuts. Cut, cut, cut. Chunk. So don't use craft scissors when you're cutting out stamps. So this one's damaged in at least 3 or 4 places. Here's a place stamp here. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm gonna activate this thing again. This is a water activated gum stamp. It's got a smaller black date. And here's one on the self-adhesives. The larger blue date. So in theory, if I find one of the coils, which I thought for sure was going to, it should have a smaller blue date like that. This one looks like they reused the stamp. Or maybe it's 2 stamps on top of each other? No. I think this is some, maybe they cut part of a stamp off at the bottom. That's kind of weird. So yeah, looks like we're missing a few coils. Alright, so today we're going to be soaking off some stamps from 1995. These are the self-adhesive ones. We're going to be doing this in 3 batches. Since there was 12 designs this year and about 22 stamps, and we might only have these 12 stamps. There was some off paper that we already kind of set aside, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be soaking off at least one of each of these designs. There's 12 altogether. We're also going to be doing a pile of stamps that have some place stamp piers on the other side of them, or tours. But we're going to start off with these stamps here. These are damaged, mostly cut too close with scissors and have like corners cut off and whatnot. So we're just going to soak these first to kind of get an idea of what we're looking for, if we need to continue with the other 12 or if we need to use chemicals or something to get these off. So most stamps, I'm going to set this aside for a second here, kind of do a little illustration. So I want to give kind of an example of how a lot of stamps were made in the United States between 1992-ish to about 2002. Like pretend this is a stamp on piece, okay? Like one of these guys here that's just on a piece of paper with some adhesive in the middle between the front of the stamp and the paper. We'll just imagine this IKEA shelf is the piece of paper on the envelope that the stamp is on. And this sheet of 1196, which is my favorite stamp, the Space Needle stamp from the 1962 World's Fair, is on that piece of paper. Now underneath the stamp, I mean, in real life, this has gum. Okay, that's just water activated gum. But let's pretend this piece of glassine is the self-adhesive, or is a piece of water activated gum. Okay, so that's going to be kind of underneath the stamp here. And in between that little piece of water activated gum here, you're going to have the acrylic adhesive. that is the self-adhesive. This is a pressure-activated gum. Okay. And this is the water-activated gum. There's kind of a sandwich here. So what will happen is when you want to soak the stamp off in water, especially most stamps between 92 and 2002, like I said, when you soak it, that water activated gum is going to dissolve, okay, as it should. And the stamp is going to separate from the paper, and it's going to leave the icky self-adhesive on the piece of paper. And that's what we're going for today, is we're hoping to activate that gum that's in between the top of the stamp and the nasty acrylic adhesive that's underneath. And we're just going to leave that pressure activated adhesive on the surface of the envelope. Anyway, I hope that illustrates what we're going to be doing today. And then we're going to take this is what we're going to be putting in our album. And then this will be just dissolved in the water, and the self-adhesive will remain on the piece of paper that was part of the envelope. All right. And just as a side note, since I do like to take those place stampiers from the stamps, this piles of stamps, they're gonna have little envelope statements like this one underneath them. When I did the 1974 to 1994 stamps and I soaked those off paper, unfortunately that video, I can't find it. I think I deleted it on accident. The adhesive, remember that IKEA shelf was the paper, that nasty black sheet of adhesive, it's still on there. See, that's sticking to my finger. Some of these you can see that kind of glossy, rectangular. That's the acrylic adhesive. This one, again, sticks to my finger. And so does this one. A lot of them, they've been air drying for a couple weeks and they're not so bad. We're also going to be trying to scrape off that nasty adhesive from these things so that we can try to put those into our collection if we need them. For most people, this is just garbage that's under the stamp, right? It's exciting because when we get to later stamps that don't have that little wafer of the water activated gum in between the paper of the stamp and the self-adhesive, this is what the bottom of your stamp will be like with the adhesive still on there. You have to scrape that off. But in the meantime, these first few issues, in the early days of self-adhesive, the glue sticks to the paper of the envelope instead of to the stamp, which is going to be really nice for a majority of stamp collectors. Here's our tray here. Usually I like to use this piece of Tupperware here. I used to store stamps in this till I started buying stamps by the pound. I really like this because it holds a good number of stamps. And I'll show you in a minute how I like to soak stamps. But this one has a little bit higher of a profile for the angle that I'm shooting today. So I'm going to use this guy, but it does wobble, and that's going to drive me insane. So I'm just going to take a little piece of baby wipe here, in case you're wondering what that white thing is. That's going to kind of reduce that wobbling noise. So I got a gallon of purified drinking water. I'm just going to pour some of this into this container here. And we're only going to do a few stamps at first, so I'm not going to use a lot of water. Like I said, we're going to start off with those damaged stamps. And there's a good representation. You got, I'm just going to start dropping these in, but you got one of the Imperfect Love ATM stamps in here, and one of the Flag Over Field ATM stamps. Then we got one of the pears, and we got one of the pink roses, and a couple or four of the Flag Over Porch stamps. Get these submerged a bit, and I'm just using cold water, no soap or anything. Well, this one has a place stamp here on it. I was going to do the place stamp here later, but anyway. Sometimes I put them face down. Just kind of flipping these under, make sure that they all get wet. And this we're going to sit there and let that soak for a minute. But yeah, we're just testing this out. I didn't have any damaged Victorian Christmas stamps. You know what? I'm going to throw one of these in here too. This is called the Midnight Angel stamp. And unfortunately, like this stamp and these four stamps, and these two stamps, and this stamp all come in a coil version, How many is that? Is that 8? Yeah, 8 of these stamps come in coils, and I don't have any of those coils. It's a little disappointing. I'm trying to remember what the other 2 versions of these stamps are. I think there's a small date version of the booklet stamp, and maybe something else. I don't remember. So 21 or 22 designs, or total stamps released in 1995, or at least have a date of 1995 on them that were released. So we're just gonna, like I said, just let this soak for a while. And the reason why I have so many copies of some of these is because I'm targeting, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. This has those die cut fake perforations on all 4 sides of the stamp. And most of the ones that I'm soaking today, besides these 3 that have straight sides, are here because they have those perforations on all 4 sides. And if you look at one of the booklets of these stamps that these came out on, there's usually like 3 rows of 6 stamps, and or 3 rows of, I'll get a picture up on the screen of how many they are, but the ones that are in the middle of the booklet are the ones that have those serpentine die cuts on all 4 sides, compared to, I think this is a border stamp. This one will have a straight edge along the bottom, because this was kind of in the middle of the bottom of the booklet. And some of these will have a straight edge on 1 or 2 sides, or sometimes even 3. No, I don't think they have 3. No, the corner ones will have 2 straight edges. The ones on the top and bottom or the sides will have 1 straight edge. And the coil stamps have 2 on the top and the bottom usually. But I feel like most people that collect stamps like the ones with the die cut on all 4 sides because it looks more symmetrical. So I'm soaking off the ones that I found that are like that. So we're just going to check a couple of these. Now, like I said, these are damaged. See, this one's kind of separating from the corner already. Again, I'm just using cold water. You usually want to hold the stamp like I am with my left hand and just pull the paper off with your right, or vice versa. And just be gentle. But this doesn't feel sticky at all. And so what I do, the reason why I like these containers with the lips on the side is I like to put the stamp kind of in the back there and let it dry. It's kind of like when you're in the shower. When you turn the water off, if you step out of the shower right away, all the water that's on your body is going to drain down your bathroom floor. But if you're standing in the shower for a few moments after you turn that water off, all the water on your body is just going to, go down to where the drain is at. So I don't know if you can see how glossy that is. That's the adhesive on there. And I didn't mean to start with the place stamp here already, but we're going to try a couple different things to try to get that glue off. One of the things you would do with most modern stamps is you could try to rub it off like this. But I think that's going to damage the backing here. I don't think I really need that place stamp here, but I'm going to try to get this stuff off. Yeah, that's taking off part of the paper. That's unfortunate. I do have some razor blades here. I'm going to just kind of show you what I'm doing here. I was hoping to scrape that off, but I think the paper is too soggy. Like that's just coming off on my fingers. So I'm just going to stick this on the side here of the outside of the container. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, take another whack at it. Actually, no, I messed that one up already. So that's just garbage. That's going to go in my garbage pile. But yeah, that came off pretty easy. So again, sometimes if the corner separates on that stamp there, let me get some of this adhesive off real quick. You just kind of pull the paper while you hold the stamp in place. That is a little glossy, but I think I got the adhesive off. You can see the corner of that stamp's been kind of chopped off with some scissors. So we're just going to stick that right there, and this is going to go in the trash pile. Now I know how long we were in the water there, but see, these are coming off pretty easy. I'm just being really gentle. You don't want to force it. Yeah, see, this one's just coming right off. Actually, this is a water activated stamp. That's my bad. That's gonna happen from time to time in here. But yeah, that just see how easy that one came off compared to the other ones. That one's got a missing corner. But yeah, I just try to hold the stamp in place. And this one, the adhesive's kind of sticking to the stamp a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of work it around different four corners, see if I can get some of that off. It's really gently kind of just work this off the stamp. The stamp paper should be in a little bit better shape than the envelope paper. So hoping to, this just might just peel off like this. Yeah, so be a little careful with those Flag Over Field and love stamps. But yeah, this is already dry and it doesn't even want to stick to the side of the sheet there. And here's one of the rose stamps. This one is not really separating yet. I'm going to leave that back in the water. But this Flag Over Porch stamp, it's just popping right off the paper. And they got that nasty gooey stuff on the paper. That might be a problem for me, getting the place stamp ears off. So here's the Flag Over Field ATM. Again, just gotta be a little more careful because that love stamp didn't come off as easily as the Flag Over Porch ones. But that separated pretty well. It feels like it's a little thinner. So and that might be just because of the requirements to come out of the bank machine. But that's on that side of that tray pretty good. And then here's that Midnight Angel stamp. Just kind of seeing if the corner pops off. It is. So I'm just going to kind of work that. Seeing some of the adhesive stick a little bit. It's kind of like peeling the shell off a hard-boiled egg sometimes. Sometimes it comes off right away, sometimes you gotta kind of work it a little bit. But hopefully, almost got all of it. So we're just gonna kind of pinch that a little bit. There. So that's all the adhesive off of that stamp. That worked pretty well. And then this last one, this pink rose, it is separating a little bit better now. So just going to pull that right off. I didn't see anything sticking on there. So we're going to stick that on the side. Just going to take a break for a second. I'm going to go get some hand sanitizer. Because when you got sticky stuff on your fingers, sometimes the hand sanitizer takes it right off. Pull these off of the side now. Now sometimes these will stick a little bit to the side. It's not adhesive, it's just water tension, surface tension. But this one we're going to be saving. And again, you can kind of see, well, maybe you can't. You could see those perforations on the four sides. Now those are die cut, of course, they're not really perforations, and it is missing one on the top right corner, but we're going to leave that one be. We do have a drawing book here. Oh, probably shouldn't have done that. Got to fix my squeaky wheel there. This one has like some blotting paper and then these clear plastic pages in between. So we're just going to stick this adhesive side down on the smoother page with that blotting surface. We're going to do the same thing. Well, this love stamp has a slight corner cut off, but we're going to throw it in here anyway. That might be a no big deal damage stamp. But this flag over field stamp, we're going to keep that one. I only have 3 or 4 of those. So we're going to put that in the drawing book as well. So we're just going to leave those in the damaged pile. I'm going to go dump out this water. But in the meantime, I'm just going to close the page on this drawing book. Yeah, a little bit more water this time. You don't really need a whole lot though. This has got a lot of surface area, so it's about a 1/2 inch. Could go a little deeper. But now we're going to be putting more of these stamps in there now that we know these are fairly safe to soak off. I don't tend to like to put more than 20 or 30 in a time, just because I feel pressured to get them off in my brain and thinking they're just deteriorating. That's about 9. This is going to be closer to 30. I'm just going to put all these in here. So just going to kind of mix these around a bit. Kind of get them submerged. Should have separated these out a little better. Flip them over. Make sure you're getting both sides of the paper wet. Now, this is going to get a lot more difficult when we get to the 2000s, when they stop putting that little strip of water activated gum on the stamps. And there are about 75 stamp designs that come both on a self-adhesive and a traditional format. Like 8 of them are in this year's issue in 95. So it gets a little confusing. Like when I had that pear stamp a couple minutes ago, didn't look too closely. So yeah, it just takes a few minutes, letting these soak in the water for a bit. I'm going to start peeling them off. I did get this mug at a Mormon thrift shop. We have a bunch of those in Idaho and Utah. This has the little love cherubs on it. There was a bit of controversy at the post office with including those, but that's from a painting called The Sistine Madonna, done by Raphael, the artist, not the Ninja Turtle. So that rose stamp last time didn't come off as quickly as the other ones did. I'm just going to test this one. I have a lot of the pink roses, so I'm not too worried if I mess one of these up. This one's, the artist's name was, we talked about her a little bit in the last episode. I think it's Goyo Fujikawa. In addition to some of the stamps she did in the 60s, there's this red, or there's this pink stamp. But in 94, there was a red rose. This is the pink rose. And then next year, we're going to have a yellow rose. It's all basically the same design, but with different color petals. This flag over field stamp. I might let these sit for a little bit longer. I could have swore on a stack of Bibles that I had some of the peach and pear coils, but apparently I do not. Anyway, that peeled off nice. Flag Over Porch seemed to be doing better than some of the other issues. I think this is Scott number 2920. And these have the large dates on them. It's pretty obvious when you get the small dates, half the size of this one. And I did not see any 2920Bs, which is a little sad, but that'll just give me something to look for, I guess. That came off really nice too. Yeah, these are coming right off. That's nice. I'm seeing what I'm doing and just pulling that paper off. And much of the nasty glue is still on that paper. But traditionally speaking, people didn't really like the booklet stamps because they didn't want stamps. And this was true for coils too when they first came out, like in the early 1900s. Collectors liked having perforations on all four sides. I'm going to do these roses real quick. But yeah, I get a little nervous when I have this many stamps in the water. Although some people just put thousands of stamps in. I always, in my brain, I'm thinking they're all turning to mush while I'm trying to get these off. And maybe I take too long. But anyway, having the fake perfs on all four sides just makes it more attractive. And to some people, yeah, this glue's still on here pretty good. I'm going to leave that one in there for a little longer. You just don't want to force it. That's kind of the trick to removing these. So if you meet resistance, you don't really want to apply a lot of force. Yeah, this one's got to stick to glue again. Just work the four corners. And then try to come at the middle from a couple different angles. So it's kind of, it's like cheese on pizza kind of. I don't know if you can see that very well. It broke off a little bit. So we're going to just gently try to massage this off. I could use the tongs too. Just get that gluey stuff off of there. But the G-rate, if you remember from the 1994 stamps, was when they didn't know how much the postal rate was going to go up from 29 cents. In this case, it was the 32. But they wanted these love stamps out for Valentine's Day, which is what the love stamps are, basically. So they put this one out, and I got that glue off. It just says USA 1995 on there under the love. And then in tiny little, tiny little numbers on the bottom there, it says 1995 again. Yeah, see, so much stuff came off that this doesn't even want to stick to the side of the, maybe if I get it wet again, it's a little bit there. And then this 55-cent love stamp, which I think was for, could be wrong, but for things like wedding invitations, they oftentimes come with a higher denomination love stamp, where in this case it was 32 cents and 55 cents. The 55 cents is just to cover the extra ounce. Like if you have some glitter and some die cut stuff in your envelope, as well as like a return envelope with one of these 32-cent stamps on it, and a reply card and the announcement and maybe a picture of the happy couple. For wedding announcements, a lot of times it costs more to mail than just a 1-ounce letter. So they have a lot of times with the love stamps, you'll see that higher rate so that they can send the wedding invitations out with that love message. Yeah, these Victorian stamps are coming right off too. So I would say just be careful with these love stamps, particularly the 33 or 32-cent one, because that just seems like it was sticking a lot more. And you don't want to push this around too hard with your thumb, because you could kind of damage the paper. It is kind of soft when it's wet, but this should just pop off like that. It's coming right off. So now that rose one came off fine. That's the one we kind of left for later. Just needed a couple more minutes to soak. So there was a controversy with the love stamps. The curator of the National Gallery of Arts was on the Stamp Advisory Committee, the Citizens Stamp Advisory Committee, the CSAC. And he didn't like the two love stamps with cherubs on them, because it said they're not cherubs, they're like messengers of death. And if you look at the Sistine Madonna, I think Raphael painted it like in 1512, and then the Pope died in like 1513 before he finished the painting. So he had these angels at the end on the bottom, or cherubs, or whatever you want to call them. And some people say they're leaning on the Pope's coffin. That's what they're resting on. They're kind of like the Catholic versions of Valkyrie, I guess, for the Norse, like spirits that come and take the soul away to heaven. But he didn't think it was appropriate to put on a love stamp, the cherubs, or what the USPS was calling cherubs, because he said it was a symbol of death and not love. But these Midnight Angel stamps also had a controversy, because usually since 1970, the first Christmas stamps came out in 1962, and they were usually like, a thing of mistletoe or a wreath or maybe a Christmas ornament. But then in 70, and that was controversial back in 62 too, people were saying the government shouldn't be making Christmas stamps, even though they didn't depict Christ or anything. But in 70, they decided to start doing what they call contemporary Christmas, which was continuing with like the Currier and Ives, Norman Rockwell kind of Christmas images. Yeah, this isn't coming off. These ATM stamps just aren't doing as well as the booklet stamps. I am getting some of the paper off. Sorry, to continue with my story. But 1970, like I said, they continue with the contemporary Christmas stamps, but they also started out with what's called traditional Christmas stamps. And that was almost always the image of the Madonna and Child, like Mary and Jesus. But sometimes it'd be like a nativity scene. I think in 74 it was 73 or 74 was like the angel Gabriel, or one of the messengers telling about Jesus or something. And then that one year there was just George Washington praying at Valley Forge on one knee, which I thought was kind of weird to have as a traditional Christmas, but I guess it's got a religious thing to him. Yeah, see, I didn't get all the paper off of this guy. It's kind of a bummer. Got some fibers stuck to it. But for the most part, there's usually a picture of Jesus and Mary. And if you know anything about medieval art, the main patron of the arts was the church, and you weren't allowed to paint pretty much anything except religious paintings. So there's a lot of depictions of the Madonna and Child by Michelangelo and Da Vinci and other Ninja Turtles, Raphael, and I don't know if Donatello. I have to look that up. But I know 3 of the Ninja Turtles did Madonnas. See, I'm still working on this one. I'm getting a little bit more of the stuff off. I think I'm taking some of the paper too that's on the stamp, but I'm trying to get some of those fibers off. And hopefully that last one in there isn't doing the same thing. But these ATM stamps definitely aren't soaking as well as the other ones. But anyway, throughout the 70s and the 80s, except for those 2 years I mentioned, there's usually a nativity scene or Jesus and Mary. Get that wire kind of stick to the side there. But in 1995, they did, for the traditional Christmas, they did that Midnight Angel. And it's not particularly a religious angel. It's just more of a whimsical Victorian. Yeah, this one's not coming off very well either. The ATM stamps you shouldn't leave in the water for as long. But there was a bit of an outcry. The Washington Post, of all places, published an article basically saying the post office is taking Christ out of Christmas because the Madonna and Child weren't on the stamp. It was just an angel. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little bit of glue. I'm able to get most of it off. So legend has it, I don't know if this has ever been confirmed or not. It's been a long time. Wait, that's doing a little bit better. Getting the rest of that adhesive and stuff off there than the last one. But legend has it the Clinton White House contacted the Postmaster General or public relations at the post office or whatever, and was like, you guys need to put Jesus on the stamp. So there was kind of a rush job with a painting by, I think the name is Gaudi, but there's a Madonna and Child stamp that was rushed out at the end of 1995 in a booklet sheet format. And there's no self-adhesive. There's self-adhesive Madonna and Child in 96, but not in 95. Okay, good. I got all that off there. Yeah, those ATM stamps are definitely thinner and a different kind of paper. So I'd be very careful soaking those. But the other ones were great. Yeah, the post office had to do a rush job and get a stamp of Jesus out in 1995 because the Washington Post was complaining. And I would imagine with 96 being an election year, the Clintons were a little worried about that being used against him in the campaign for his re-election if he got blamed for not having Jesus on a stamp. I'm not sure if I'm going to soak those place stamp heres until I can figure out a better way to get that glue off. I'm going to go back to that page I had those 3 stamps on. I kind of move this. Just be careful if you're doing the non-denominational love stamp. So I looked up some of the coils, Midnight Angel coil and the 4 Victorian postcards. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think the production numbers are really low, like for stamps anyway. Like 2 million here, maybe 3 or 4 million there. And if you know anything about stamp releases, that's considered a very, 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 very low number of stamps produced. I looked them up on Hipstamp. Some of those coils are going for like $3 or $4 a piece. But just a heads up, if you're trying to be a completist like me, it might cost you to get some of those coil stamps. But yeah, they didn't have time to make self-adhesive Mary and Jesus stamp for 95. but they did do it 96. I think 96 is the only year there was a self-adhesive and a gummed version of the Madonna stamp, and I think after that they were all self-adhesive. Could be wrong. But anyway, that's the stamps of 1995. I'm going to try something real quick with these place stamp heres. I'm going to see what happens when we use some pure orange citrus spray or some Bestine. Maybe that will get the adhesive off the paper. So I'm going to go set that up really quick. All right, so we're going to move this a little closer over here. And we're going to set this water aside. If this works, I'm still going to soak the stamps in the water and hope that we get the gum off the other side of the stamps so we can save the stamps. There's nothing wrong with these stamps, well, except for this one. It's got a nasty stain on it. So we're going to start with this one first, because this is like our damaged stamp that has a place stamp here on the other side. So we're going to use pure citrus orange first. All right, so we're just going to spray the back of this stamp. Just going to let that work into the paper a little bit. Just kind of working this into the paper here. Now on a modern adhesive or self-adhesive, this would work right away. So you can see how kind of able to pull this thing off. And again, this is a damaged stamp. It's got some stains on it. Okay, so I think this is what I'm going to be doing with these ones, is treating them like I would the modern self-adhesive stamps from the last 20 years or so to get that envelope statement there. And I'm going to let that dry out, but I'm going to see if it's sticky like those ones I was showing you earlier from 2 weeks ago. And then we're just going to see if this works. I'm not really familiar with this razor blade method to get the self-adhesive off. I'm just going to kind of mess with this a little bit. It's getting some of it off. Try this one's got a fresh blade on it. But yeah, that seems like it's working. And again, it's a lot easier to work with this paper stuff when it's dry versus when it's been soaking for a few minutes. I think I got that all off of there. I might rinse these in the water. I should have changed the water out, but it's not a big deal. Got a little bit of Bestine in here. I usually only use like a drop or so. If you're going to be doing this a lot, you should wear rubber gloves or something because it can irritate your skin. There's a couple different ways to do Bestine as well. Use 2 drops here. Just kind of let it work into the paper there. Now again, if you don't care about the backing of the stamp, you don't have to do it this way. You can just use water for these particular issues. But I did want these envelope statements off of here because if you saw my first episode, you know that I collect those. And this should peel off. Maybe I'll give it another minute to kind of soak in there. I'm going to kind of run it along the edge of the stamp here, like so, on the front. Again, I probably should be using gloves. I've done a lot worse with my hands over the years. So, this is separating. Getting a little resistance there. Yeah, the glue's still on the paper, which isn't what I want. I can just soak these off paper or water with water and get that. So it worked. I got the adhesive off the back of the stamp. And that seems pretty much ready to go. I'm going to let that rinse as well. But then I'm stuck in the same position I was before where I wanted that glue off. I'm going to give Bestine another chance with a different type of paper. This time we're only going from the back. It's on there. I hardly put any in this eyedropper, so there's barely enough to scoop out. There we go. Maybe I'll use 6 or 8 drops this time. But I do have like 5 or 6 cans of that pure citrus, and that worked pretty well for what I'm trying to do here. So we're going to try this again. Again, use gloves. That came off a lot easier. I can feel the glue on the stamp now. So maybe just hitting it from the back, if you're trying to save the paper like this, will be better. But then I got a stamp with glue on the back. So I'm going to let that soak and see if that thin layer of the water activated gum will help separate the two. I'm actually going to take this guy with the sticky stuff on it. I'm going to stick that down on the cardstock here, and I'm going to put some Bestine on the back of it and see if the adhesive will just stick to the construction paper. I'm going to try to do 4 drops. I mean, that thing's curling right off the paper, so I think it worked. Maybe not. So I'm going to try the razor blade. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it scraped some of the adhesive off. I'm just running it like this. It's still a little sticky. So I'm going to give that another run from this angle. Yeah, it's not great. I'm going to check on this stamp in the water here and see if that adhesive's coming off yet. It's definitely kind of peeling off. So that strip of water activated gum is getting that sticky stuff off. So that's nice. I probably could have left it in there a little longer, but I got most of the glue on my finger there now. So saved that stamp. So I'm going to try some more pure citrus on these guys. I go from the back again. I'm going to kind of lay a bunch of these out together. They came out so fast last time. I'm going to try to not waste as much of it. Oops. We're experimenting here, so just bear with us. It's pretty stiff and rigid when you're pulling off the paper. And again, I'm going to soak that in the water to get some of that glue off. This feels way less sticky than the last couple. So I think I'm going to use that pure citrus stuff on my tours that I want to get off. I'm going to rinse that off too. But yeah, that's coming right off. I'm going to see if anything scrapes off with the razor on this. I shouldn't have left those other two sitting there. But yeah, I got some glue off in there. It's kind of like rubber cement almost. I might have to have a different setup if I'm going to be spraying that stuff in here. But the pure citrus is working pretty good. And there is my place stamp here. I don't think I have this color configuration with the tan paper and the brown ink. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully I'm not going to take the ink off doing this. Oh geez, scraped a little too hard in there. got some of the paper. I'm gonna give that a bath too. Trying to use up that pure citrus that's on the paper. Here's another flag over porch stamp, and just gonna peel that off. This one says put stamp here. Post office will not deliver without postage. Just gonna scrape that off with the razor blade so you can see the adhesive right there. As we move forward through the 2000s, you're going to have a lot of stamps that don't have the production numbers that some of these 90s stamps had. So this is good that we're figuring out what works, what doesn't work for some of these stamps, because there's going to be some that we're not going to want to damage experimenting later. Although that's usually what the flag stamps are for, because I have lots of flag stamps. So here's one I just took out of the water that I used the, I think it was pure citrus. That gum is just coming right off. It's kind of gross. But hey, typically when I have these containers, I like to put the tours or the place stamp peers on the outside along the bottom, and then the stamps on the inside, like right in here. If I was going to do this with a lot of stamps, I'd want to be changing this water out. I'm sure there's glue in there now. So I'm going to try the razor blade on this pink rose instead of rubbing it off my fingers. You can see some of it just stuck to the paper right there. I think I'm pushing too hard. Yeah, it took some of the paper off. That's wet. Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick that there. Okay, what else we got floating around in here? Some of the stuff I'm learning as I show you, so just I don't know if you can see that, but that's just a glob of adhesive. These older stamps, if you just care about the stamp, just soak them in water. If you want the place stamp here, just spray them with pure citrus to get them off. I got 5 left. I think I probably already have these particular ones. I'm going to try to do a shorter burst of the pure citrus. That's a lot. It's okay. Just going to let that work into the stamp a little bit. So again, just going to... Oh, this is one of the ATM stamps. Let's see how this one does. I know I said to pull the paper and not the stamp, so I'm trying to do that instead. Definitely a lot of glue on the paper still. I just think they had a different adhesive on those ATM stamps. These stamps feel nice and rigid when they're not soaked in the water. Yeah, that glue is definitely different on those flag over porch stamps, because this is pretty much the same paper as some of those other ones, and this feels a lot better. This is coming right off. And last one, another love stamp. So this one's pretty soaked in the pure citrus, and it comes off right away. And that paper feels nice and smooth, so the adhesive actually stuck to the paper this time. Alright, I'm going to try the razor blade again on this. Because we, like I said, have a few of these already. And it's on the razor blade there. This will come in handy. It's like a chunk of rubber cement. So we're just practicing with different angles, different moisture levels of the stamp. From here on out, we'll have to do the razor blade first before we give him a bath. Unless that'll, because look how like glue is still on there. I don't know if you can see this at all, what I'm doing, but I'm just scraping the razor blade along the top of the stamp here. It gets that glue off. And I think that's it. We're just going to clean up, and then we're going to move on to putting these in my album for the 1995 stamps. All right, see you soon. Hey, we are back. It's been a couple days. We're going to check on those 1995 stamps that we soaked off paper. All right, so we're just going to check on the status. There's a little bit of glue on here, but it's not too sticky, of some of my tours and the stamps I had in here. All right, so we got some Lego report stamps. We're gonna double check these when we're done against some other ones, just make sure we putting them all in the album. Or I mean, which ones we're gonna put in the album, I should say. It's peach, I think. $0.55 one that came out like in May. I think it came out in May because that's wedding season's big, like in June and July. So I think we talked about that a little bit, about how that was a rate for wedding invitations. So I think that was it. So now we're going to take out the stamps we did save from 1995 that we were considering putting in our album. I'm going to keep those in a kind of a separate row. Just remember there was 12 designs and about 24 stamps. See which ones of these are going to end up in our album. Still a little shocked we didn't get any of the coils. And so we're going to put these 12 in our album, basically. I might double check these ones and just make sure it wasn't something else, but we had extras of all 12 of these and soaked them off paper. If you recall, some of them were a little harder to get off because of the adhesive on the back than others. I think that's about it. We're already missing 10 stamps, but that's okay. That'll give us something to look for. Next step will be to put them in our album. This is the last part of the episode where we're going to put them into our album. And you can see we have 12 of the 22 or 23 stamps up here. We're missing like 7 or 8 coils and the children's sledding stamp and one of the flag report stamps. But if you remember from the 74 to 94 stamps, we had this page here. It's kind of stuck in the middle of like 1990. Here's 1990 commemoratives. A lot of really cool stamps that came out about this time. Here's that F ATM stamp and the Liberty ATM stamp we put in last time. But for some reason, this 93 to 95 Flora and Fauna series fits inside the 1990 stamps in terms of Scott numbers. So instead of these being in the 2900s or the early 3000s, they're in the 2400. First stamp's going to be the pink rose. As you can see, it's the same design as the red rose. And next year there'll be a yellow rose. This is Scott 2492. I guess it's on here. One of the nice features of these Mystic albums, they have the Scott numbers on there. And they made like close to 800 million of these things. It's not exactly rare. This came out in, I want to say, June of 95. So this wasn't the first self-adhesive stamp of the year by any means. We're just going to put that one right there. And the next one's going to be the Peach and Pear series. These were together on the same booklet. And there is a coil format. We weren't able to find either of these coils. I could have swore I had these coil stamps, but apparently not. So we're just going to keep a lookout for those. But these would be 2493 and 2494. And they're designed by a gentleman named Ned Seidler. And it said there was 706 million of these printed. I don't know if that is 706 total for the two designs or for all four of these stamps, or all six if you include the water activated gum versions, or if it means that there's 1.4 million stamps and half of them are pears and half of them are peaches. I don't know. This is the peach stamp. Just kind of put some pressure in there. I do keep my hands nice and clean with this. The coil versions of these have smaller dates on them. That's going to be it for this page for now. Hopefully we'll find these two. And this is it for this album. A few stamps I'm still missing out of it. But this book goes from that first self-adhesive stamp that we talked about, the 1974 Weather Vane, and it goes to the G stamp. All right, so the very first page of the next album is the Flag Over Porch stamps. Now this isn't all of them. We're going to end up having about 16 in this album. Hope to do kind of more of an overview of these stamps. A very interesting story, but we're not really addressing that today. We're just kind of trying to get this one out of here and done. So I'm just gonna put a hinge on this guy. So I lick the small piece and then I kind of press it on to the stamp like that. And then I lick the big piece on the back, that flap right there. So that's on there pretty good. And hopefully we will have more of these. There is the Flag Over Field stamp is right here. With the way the stamp program has been lately, it's kind of weird to have two different flag stamps come out in the same year. But we will see that happen a couple more times heading out. It's not as unique as you might think. This one has, what does it have? Huh, this might still be on paper. I'm just going to leave it though. That could be the original lining for all I know. Yeah, this is a mint stamp. I'm going to stick to my keeping it used all the time. I thought that felt awfully thick compared to some of these other ones. They felt really thin. These ATM stamps are just thinner in general. So we're just going to put this one in there. And I know that's weird, but I did go through all my albums and I took out any mint stamps I have because this is my used stamp album. And someday maybe if I ever win a Powerball or something like that, I would go ahead and start a new collection, preferably with my own album that I made from scratch, but with hinges. I mean, mounts. Just gonna put that guy right here. All right, so we're gonna look for the next stamp. That wasn't too difficult, except that this is a 96. So we're gonna come back to this page, and we're missing I think we're missing one of those. This is a 96 as well. But these are all like 96, 97s as well. Although this one says 95, but I don't think we have this one. This might be, actually I think it's this one. I think it's the Lick and Stick. fill that out. This one is a self-adhesive. I think it's a 98 or 99 date. Beginning of that, but we are missing a couple of these stamps for some reason. I like to keep a tenant set of stamps when I find them, separate than the singles. But here's the next stamp we're going to be doing. This is 2949. There we go. This page is done. There was only one self-adhesive on here, so we're just going to look for the next one. 5 of them are Christmas stamps, so here's the next appropriate one. See, there are some other love stamps. There's one or two more. When it came to sheet stamps, or souvenir sheets, or a collector sheet, I guess, of stamps like this, I've been a little torn on how to collect these. In some circumstances, like the Celebrate the Century ones, I would just buy like a mint sheet, right? And I would usually have a rule that if there was, let's say, 10 different stamp designs, I'd buy the sheet. But if there's only 4 or 5, I didn't always buy the sheet because you're just buying like 15 extra stamps. I might have bought like a strip of 5, but I wouldn't buy the whole sheet. But then I decided a couple of years back that I was only going to collect US or used US stamps. So then I started buying sheets like this one, which are canceled. This is the first day issue, and it has all the stamps have been canceled on here. And that kind of works for how I want to do this. But I also thought I wanted to collect singles, used singles. So I've just been kind of on the lookout. And this is one of my favorite things to find, is singles of souvenir sheets or collector sheets like this. I think from here on out, I won't be buying these. This is actually a souvenir page put out by the post office. They call them something else now. But this is just a first day cancel of this sheet. I'm going to focus more on getting these individual used stamps. And in my old album, there would be a page for the sheet like this. But then there would also be a page with a little bit more spaced out places to put these 20 stamps. I kind of missed that. In the meantime, I've just been putting these on the pages where the picture of the sheet is. Eventually, if I ever make my own album, it will have a page for these with a little bit better spacing and a page to put the sheet. Like these World War II stamps. I've been collecting the individual ones as I find them. But I'm not going to go ahead and buy this sheet until I run out of stamps to buy, and then I might go back and have a sheet. And then, like I said, a page where these 10 stamps are just on a page, kind of like this. A lot of these music series stamps are hard to find. They made so many of them in the mid-90s. And here's another example of the collector sheets. This is the classic. They did a whole bunch of things like classic comic strips, classic airplanes, classic American dolls. It's like the classic American series that they did for a number of years. But this is the classic comic strips. And I have about half of them in singles. Okay, so here's the page. And the Midnight Angel one should be on the next page. Yeah. And here's those coils that I didn't find. And I could have swore I had this stamp. It might show up, maybe it fell off the table or something. And then I'm missing 4 of these car stamps. I mean, there's a bunch of stamps I'm looking for. And like I said, I have like 100 pounds of stamps on paper. And a lot of them are from this era, so I might have these stamps in those boxes. I just need to finish what I'm doing with the self-adhesive so I can get to that point. Let's get some hinges ready. At least this page will be done. Alright, so that page is done. We can see here the next page just starts with 1996. And this will be the first one we'll be putting in next week, if we happen to have that one. We'll find out when we get to the 96 episode. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. And you can write to me. I mean, this is a show about stamps and postal history at the Place Stamp Here Show, P.O. Box 921, Twin Falls, Idaho 83303-0921. So go ahead and send me a postcard or write me a letter or comment below. Let me know if I got something wrong or if you wish I covered something more. We're going to be talking about the flag over porch stamp here pretty quickly, in addition to doing a 96 album fill series with up to 32 stamps that were issued in self-adhesive format that are dated 1996 on the stamp. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. So I will talk to you soon.